sponsored by Carnation, airing live on the United Public Radio Network on 105.3 FM in New Orleans. This show's entrance has been edited, produced, and directed by Gwen Clapper from Perfect Trust Productions, LLC. You can find us at perfecttrustproductions.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Monday night segment of Horsefly Chronicles Radio with myself, Julia Siracusa, and Phil Siracusa. We're broadcasting live from the International Public Radio and the United Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM from New Orleans. This evening's show is fully sponsored by Carnation, so we want to thank them for this sponsorship. You'll have to do a few things in order to participate. Go over to the YouTube channel, UFO Paranormal Radio or International Public Radio. You can also go into all of the Facebook stations, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, UFO Undercover with Joe Montaldo, News on the Flip Side, Twitch, SoundCloud, and Podbeam. And if you have any questions for our guests, please ask. So tonight, guys, we have an amazing guest, so please welcome back to our show. But first time on UPRN, Dan Rivera. Dan is the senior lead investigator of N.E.S.P.R. That's the New England Society for Psychic Research, founded in 1952 by Ed and Lorraine Warren. Dan's also a U.S. Army veteran, so we want to thank him for his services. Thank you. N.E.S.P.R. is ran by co-director Tony Spira. Dan and his amazing team have helped so many people going through horrible hauntings successfully throughout the years. They're working on their second annual Paragon, the Warren Seekers of the Supernatural, this October, which has been very successful. So please let's welcome Dan to the show.
Welcome.
Yay!
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. It's been a while since we talked to you.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while. How you guys doing? I mean, with the house and everything.
We're alive, so that's a good thing.
we're doing good. We've had some hiccups, but I think that...
Yeah, so for the listener out there, Dan has been to the Horsefly Chronicles home with his team a couple of years already. Wow.
Yeah.
Right? 2 years. Talk about timing.
Yeah.
And he's been very helpful, and we want to thank him for that and his specialties. Dan, tell the listener how you got started. Let's go back to adolescence, any psychic dreaming or people in the family that were involved with paranormal. And let's talk about how you got started and all that good stuff, your foundation.
Yeah, for all the listeners that may not know who you are.
Right. Well, it started off when I was young. I mean, it was in my family. I had we lived in a 4-family house in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and my aunt, which was practicing Santeria, and pretty much her altar was underneath my bedroom, and I will, feel the ill effects from her rituals, being dragged out of bed, being thrown into the wall. I wasn't the only one experiencing these activities. My cousins were as well. Her kids were experiencing it. Growing up in that house, like I said before, I had said it's not like your regular haunting. It was more of a demonic presence in that house. And then from there, we moved away from that 4-family house to Stratford, Connecticut, and thinking that I wouldn't be affected by this anymore, and it seemed to be at the new house, and we were experiencing pretty much the same experience, that I had in the other house. So needless to say, I think it was because I had a gift, and at an early age didn't know that. and I will see spirits, entities. Again, I'll see like the negative, the demonic as well. So growing up, trying to understand what my abilities were, and my aunt knew I had these abilities, and I think she was trying to test me, and which I didn't want her to do that. So I sought help through the church, for protection. Um, my family knew exactly what she was doing, but they pretty much kept that from us. Um, I found out later on what she was up to. Um, and my cousins, lived with us as well. I mean, and they went through some tough times. They love their mother, but they've seen a lot. I seen one time when she was arguing with her husband, and they were in their bedroom, and I saw the bed levitate, spin in midair, knocking him into the wall. I saw a black mass, a figure of a large man at the bottom of the stairs. My cousin was frozen, staring down the stairs, and I peeked over the corner to see what it was, and I saw this entity at the bottom of the stairs, and my cousin was just frozen there. So I pretty much just ran and tackled him from the stairway into the other room. Um, it's just a lot of things that I experienced as a child, and it sparked my interest into the unknown, the paranormal, which it led to me starting my own group, um, helping people understand what they're going through, and because I've been through it. I mean, not just like I said, a regular haunting, but dealing with the demonic, which led me later on in life to the Warrens. They welcomed me with open arms. I was mentored by Lorraine Warren, and I've been with them, ever since. I started with the group, and now I'm their senior lead investigator. One of the partners now with TCD Paracon and Entertainment, which we take the Warrens Occult Museum, and we bring them to our events. Right now, we're holding it at Mohegan Sun Casino on October 29th. Multiple speakers we're going to have there. We have Ryan Buell from Paranormal State. We have Nick Roth from Ghost Adventures, and he's got a new show right now that he's working on, and they're filming at the moment. So it's going to be exciting time. I got Keith Johnson, Carl Johnson there from last year. They'll be there again. We have the great Christian, I believe. He was on Johnny Carson like over 60 times. He's appeared on Johnny Carson. He had his own show back in the 70s. So we're gonna have him as well. We haven't officially announced him yet because we just booked him.
We just did.
Yeah, and he's a legend in itself. I mean, he's traveled airtime. I think he holds the Guinness Book of World Records for airtime. I think it's over 3 million miles.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is amazing. I mean, you guys come to the show, this guy's going to blow your mind. He might be 84 years old, but the things that, he performs on stage will literally blow your mind.
Wow, that's amazing. Hey, I want to backtrack a little bit. Let's go back to adolescence, okay? Because this is important for the listener. One thing about the show, Horsefly Chronicles Radio, is we want to teach people that hauntings are real, whether it be from a regular ghost or demonic. And the other thing is the guides that people can put up. But the question I want to go to through adolescence now, which is very important. You said that the bed levitated.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
so my question to you is, what kind of force of energy does it take to do something like that? I mean, we could say it levitated, but to me, I want to know how that's even possible.
It's done. It's the demonic. I mean, they have this strength. God has power, so does the demonic as well, and is capable of doing those things. If there's so much negative energy in the house, the demonic feeds off of that energy. So what my aunt was putting off, and with her practice, it manifested itself and created this energy that was able to levitate that bed. And
She was putting out some pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
she was,
Wow.
and we
Wow.
all, we all felt it, and it wasn't good. Things when people go on paranormal investigations, the mind is very powerful. Um, this persuasion is, if I, if that's the way the way I want to put it. Um, so if they think, they're thinking when they go into a haunted house, you know, and they feel, something's going to happen to me, or they start feeding into the
Yeah.
stories of the home. They're
Yeah.
creating this false image, almost like Ed would call it a topa. Um, and when you feed into it, it grows. It's
Yeah.
it's actually a demonic entity that wants an identity.
Okay.
So the more people that go in there, the stronger that demon gets,
Yeah.
because you're giving it an identity. It just might be from a folk legend, um, something, maybe a psychic went in there and said, "This is what's happening in the house. This is what's in here," and then the word starts spreading that we have this demonic entity in our house. His name is this or that. So when people hear that, you know, the story grows, then people start experiencing different things in the home. So the legend starts growing. And then activity starts increasing because now they created this monster. So my job is to go in there and figure out, when did it start? That's why, Phil and Julia, you understand why I went to your house and I didn't want to hear the evidence,
Yeah.
what was captured in there. I
Yeah.
just wanted to hear your story, your upbringing in life, trying to figure out where it all started. I didn't want to go by what a psychic said or
Yeah.
what other paranormal groups have captured in the home. I had to come up with my own conclusion, what exactly was happening in the house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you. You power through thought. You can almost manifest it, right? Because
Correct.
Yeah.
you're creating that negative energy that it wants to feed off of. And he's right about that because I've seen nothing happen. And then I've seen
Hmm.
when teams came in the past, and the shadows only appeared during investigations. So the other side knows what's going on. They're getting stronger from it. And that leads me to a question. You said you moved from one house to the next and it followed you. Did it follow multiple people or just yourself?
Oh, my cousins. Plus, like I said, I had a gift, so it wasn't just what was in that home that followed me. It was, the guy that committed suicide in the bathroom of the new
Oh,
home that we moved into. Um, his spirit was lingering in the house as well, and I was picking up on that. I would just hear voices. I was playing in the backyard as a child. I was around 10 years old, and a woman called out, told me to go in the house. There was nobody outside, so I still went in the house. As soon as I walked through that door, this branch fell down in the driveway that would have killed me.
Wow.
So it followed me even into my, early 20s when I bought my first home. I would still hear these voices and see apparitions. It never went away. But that's when I started my own paranormal group and did my study into the paranormal. My study into the demonic, rituals being practiced and different occult practices. So I educated myself, and that's when I was able to go out there and start educating other people on what they're dealing with.
the man that killed himself in the bathroom, was that residual energy or was
That
that in the
that was,
present of the
that
moment?
was intelligent energy. I physically, I saw him laying in his tub. It was a black man, in his late 30s, um, heavy set man. I could see him laying in the tub with his arm hanging out. The tub was full of blood, and I was around 12 years old when I witnessed that, and it was him telling me, his sorrow. I felt it, you know.
So
And
he never left?
he never left. He
So
never
here's
left.
my question. Here's the question I want to ask you. I believe in heaven. I believe in hell. Okay, and I do studies on near-death experiences of people who talk about the other side. My question to you is, someone commits suicide or dies tragically. In this case, you're saying that they're still at the same place, same time that they took their life, and there is no way that a portal of energy opened up where they can cross over to another
Uh,
realm?
I don't think that he felt he was worthy of moving on.
Okay.
Um, Plus
So you're talking about free will.
free will. The
So his
Lord gave
free
us
will,
free
he
will
doesn't
when
want
he
to cross
created
over.
us.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't feel that he felt that he felt worthy of moving on. Time is different on the other side. To them, it was probably 6 hours when he committed his suicide. To us, it might have been 30 years
Right.
since then. Um, so that's we fully don't understand the time limit
Right.
of their realm and ours. But I believe that there's a time difference. We live in a parallel universe, and there's a veil between our universe and theirs, and that's how we're able to communicate with them. If we're able to break through that veil, and they could see us for a split second, and I believe it's vice versa as well, from their realm, their universe, their world, that you know they could break through that veil as well, and they could see us, like if there's a disturbance on the property, or if there's the negative energy in the home. um the veil cracks, and they're able to see. And I believe we're surrounded by spirits. There's more dead than there is to living. um but it's when that negative energy is in the air, that veil cracks, and they could come through.
A
That's why
person
you
who,
go
yeah.
people move into a place that's known to be um infested with demons, say the Amityville home. But then you have a family in there that moves in after, and they're a good family. I mean, they're peaceful. I mean, hardly any arguing. The negative energy that they put out is very little, so they're not able to experience the hauntings. They might have some occurrences here and there that they can't explain, but once you have a family in there that's dysfunctional, um,
Right.
if somebody's dealing with depression, or somebody's an alcoholic, or somebody's abusive, um, it drives out that demonic into their world.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that. Firmly believe that. Because the Amityville Horror well, I mean, I know that house. I've been to that house back in the day. That was a crazy house, haunted. And then you're right, because other people can go in and nothing happens. Like the third
Yeah.
family claimed there was nothing there. But the kid guy killed his family. The second, they left. So that's interesting that you said that. And that goes according to, I guess, the nature of a family. If you have a good quality family with no problems, well, look, everyone has an issue or two, but
Right.
you don't fight, and that means they're not stirring anything up on the other side, nothing can happen.
But what if you have a family that moves into a house that doesn't normally argue and fight, and
Well, then we
and
look at the
then
different. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
and then like all of a sudden they move into a location and things are crazy. There's
Well,
fighting.
I mean, there's stories. I mean, there's times where they have a daughter that's going through puberty, and she's going through changes in her life. That sparks up the energy as well. You could have somebody that's sensitive, that is psychic, and they don't know if they have those abilities, that attracts light, and it also attracts the opposite as well.
Mhm.
So that's one of the reasons why I go there and I ask the questions and I go deep into it. You have to find out. There's always a spark that
Yeah.
causes this to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So my job is to go in there and figure out what's the spark.
Yeah.
The haunting that you dealt with through adolescence, is it over now?
I've learned to block a lot of things out, um, just for my protection,
Mhm.
you know. And I use my abilities. I let it just come to me when it needs to come to me.
Yes.
I'm not out there trying to read everybody out there. Um, it's when I'm in a certain situation, it happens.
Yeah.
Or if somebody's sitting across the room and I can feel their energy, and if I start looking into their eyes, I can start seeing what they've been through. There was a it's kind of funny. I was at a convention just yesterday, and there was a lady across from me. She was a psychic reader. There was two of them. So I looked at Chris. I said, Chris, and we wouldn't want anybody to do. We don't believe in going to psychics and having them read us. But I was looking at both of them, and I said to the lady on the left, I don't think she has it, but the one to the right, she does. I mean, she shouldn't even be using those cards to read somebody. And I told her, I went up to her and I said, you have a gift. You shouldn't be using these cards for your gift. And then she looked at me. She started thanking me. It's like, yeah, I need to be more confident in what I'm doing. That's like, well, get rid of the cards and use your gift the way it should be used. And her eyes just started watering. And I told her a little bit about her past because I was feeling it. And I didn't want to go too far into it because I didn't want to intrude on her, you know. But I felt I had to say something to her.
Yeah.
When you remove negative energy, demons, where do they go?
Mm.
They disperse from the home. They go as far away as possible if you make the imprint of the Christ light on that home. They know when they're exposed, just like when I was sitting at your dinner table
Yeah.
and I exposed the demon. What happened at that table at that night? What happened? Just say it.
It's
The li-
amazing to the listener out
the
there. I
lights.
believe Dan was reading a prayer,
Yes.
and every light between the living room and the kitchen went on really, really bright, almost to the point, almost you had to dim your eyes, like you had to almost cover your eyes. And that was amazing, you know, and scary, but amazing. And I always wonder, where do these things,
Where do they go?
the imprint of
They,
that entity when you were here, that specific imprint of that
Yeah.
particular thing has not returned here.
right.
Mhm.
The other little things, but nothing, that thing there, that
Yeah.
bad thing has never um, came back. That one particular thing, which was awesome. So, and where does it
And
go?
I wanna say it lays in the shadows.
Yeah.
It waits because
Dormant.
they're gonna wait until you fall again. Um, they're gonna wait to see how they could, you know, get back in. So when I gave you that advice, to keep strong and your life is gonna change if you just, follow that path and, stop all the investigations, that things will get better. Like you said, nobody has that perfect family. There are going to be times where, there is going to be that disruption of negative energy thrown in the house, but you'll catch yourself and you'll say to yourself, we can't have this in here, you know, and you change the environment. So with the investigations, like I said, it was a monster that was growing, and we had to stop that monster from growing. Um, and that was the start of it. And I hope it worked. And like you said, you haven't dealt with that entity anymore. What was dispersed from that property that evening, um, and through prayer, and through cleansing, because I went into your past and I pointed out certain things in your past, and a lot of your past and your emotions, you released it. And that was a cleansing of your soul. So we've got rid of the kinks and we made your aura stronger and your faith stronger. So now, that entity is harder for him to get to you.
I agree with that.
And to the listener out there, when he says him, well, let me tell you, to the listener, this is crazy, but so this particular entity was identified as a girl named Sarah.
Yeah.
From, I don't know from what era, white dress, very white complexion, and a young, innocent girl. And we've had over 52 paranormal teams here throughout the years, and they would play with her in a sense where they would try to make the K2 meter go off by talking to her. And we had people who really knew what they were doing with that Ouija board, to the fact that they were having full-blown conversations. And then other people say, are you sure that this is a girl named Sarah and not something else? And it wasn't up until N.E.S.P.R came here and they asked some certain questions in a particular room in the basement, which we call the portal. And then outside the basement, they played the recorder, and it said something I won't repeat on air because, but it wasn't Sarah. So this young, innocent girl was not the innocent girl. It's kind of like the Sally House, for example.
And what was really great about that night is that Phil really, he got it.
Well, I felt betrayed, lied to. I mean, all the teams that were here too. Think about that, all the work that people put in to try to do the figuring out. And that footprint of that specific entity has never returned. In fact, Dan, a few days later, I went to, what store did I go to buy?
Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby. I bought crosses. I bought the Mother Mary statue at a Catholic store. I went all the way out, and I felt it in my heart.
Yeah.
Not because I wanted to buy things through a part of, I just want to do it. I felt it was the right thing at the right time that I could not do throughout the years because I felt one way or another, I felt blocked.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's important for the listener to know that these things can make you think differently and do a lot of trickery, mind manipulation. And I know for one, and my family knows, that these things know how to play off of our fears, our emotions, and control our thoughts in a way where they'll make you think something completely different than what you were originally thinking was the right thing. Right. So I have to say that kudos to you and your team. And it's been 2 years Phil, since that particular thing. It's interesting.
But Phil, it changed the way you look back in your life and what happened. And I'm sure I know that you've contacted certain people after our conversations, and clarified a couple things up with them. Because I did call you a couple months after, and I said, you didn't talk to that person, did you? Yeah, well, it's kind of funny you said that. I just got off the phone with him.
Who's referring to?
I don't know.
You know who I'm referring to.
No, I don't.
I can't say his name.
Wait,
who was he talking about?
I don't know.
Well, anyway, you can catch me off air on that one. Lately, my mind is, ever since I had COVID, I'm not even thinking clearly.
You got to message me.
You definitely have to message us so you can refresh my memory on that one.
All right.
But
I'm
not sure.
Guy?
I don't know. Maybe.
We don't want
to.
You
can't say anybody's name on air, but we really.
You worked with him in the 80s.
Wait, what?
The 80s?
He had to go in hiding for a while.
The hell?
Well, that we're gonna have to. We don't want to kill the airtime on that, but we definitely want to hear through a message who we're talking about, because it's not coming to me, but it will eventually.
It's not coming to me either.
It will eventually.
We'll get it.
But the point is, I'm trying to make is that it's more common than people think that these negative entities can attach themselves to families and a lot of people, like, I come from a strong background family who my father would say, "You got bugs in your brain. What are you?
Yeah.
What are you silly or something? You want to slap? You believe in this nonsense? Come on, what's the matter with you?" You know, the old Italians would be like, "Nah, come on, go work 50 hours a week instead of putting your time into this." And then there's other people like myself who come forward and say, "No, this is real. These
Right.
things do exist." And I guess even though they show themselves certain ways to certain people, the entities,
Yeah.
other people may not have those effects that um, they may not even know it. And you know, I believe that truly that these things can affect people in different ways. It doesn't have to be you're going to see a ghost or you're going to see anything, but it could be your finances all
Yeah.
of a sudden go for a spin and your
Right.
health starts to go down. And
And
then
it,
your mental, and then if you have an addiction, alcohol, drugs, or a
right.
mental verbal abuse towards people, or you have anger problems, I believe that the entities can feed off of that and get stronger before they try to take you down. And there's a lot of cases out there. You know, I go back to Amityville Horror because that is one of the most incredible stories. The DeFeos, the guy had money,
Yeah.
and the family, you know, he had a sign out there, High Hopes, right? Beautiful
Right.
home, absolutely beautiful home, and the whole family was torn down.
Yeah.
So it
I
makes you
think
wonder.
there's a lot.
One thing could
There's a
destroy
lot to that
everything.
story. You know, that was they were a dysfunctional family as well.
Yeah,
You know, Ron DeFeo Sr. was a very strict, old school
yeah.
Italian guy, hard on his kids,
Yeah.
Um, there's probably things that we don't know what caused this family to be so dysfunctional. Um, I believe, it just wasn't Ronnie Jr. that did this by himself. There was,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Mm.
there was more to it. But yeah, Ronnie was messed up. I mean, Ronnie,
Yeah.
got into drugs and everything, and that didn't help. But I believe Ronnie was also an abused child. Um, he wasn't the only one in that family that was abused.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, resentment with him and his parents. Same thing, his sister had the same resentment. She followed a different crowd. So there's a lot that still needs to be uncovered. When the Lutz moved in there, Lutz family, similar family, they're a little dysfunctional. Um, and the kids, felt the ill effects of it. I can't go deep into that part of the story because it's not my place to tell that part of the story.
Yeah.
I'll let the kids who lived in that home tell their story. You have Chris Quarantino that has his side of the story, and I believe he's working on certain projects where he's going to be able to tell you exactly what he went through. So I leave it as that, because like I said, that's not my place. That's their story, and let him tell you his story.
Very
Right.
sad, very, very sad ending to that whole thing, as everyone knows, and
Yeah.
very sad. Hey, let's talk about one of the most incredible things out there, the Annabelle doll. I mean, you built the case. Let's
Yeah.
talk about this doll because, I mean, the movie's are long, right?
Yeah, for the new listeners, like what made you you build the protective case that it's in.
Right.
What drove you to do that?
Um, One of the reasons why I built that case was to continue what Ed and Lorraine were doing, teaching the public about the demonic, about the Annabelle story, and the other items of the occult museum. The museum was closed due to zoning issues.
Hmm.
The amount of people that were driving down the street after the movies came out. So we were still having our events at the time, and it just got out of hand. Neighbors were complaining,
Yeah.
and they reported, that to the town, and town hit us with some, you know, with restrictions that we can't have the museum open to the public.
Right.
So we decided to start doing our own events, evenings with Annabelle. We were selling out for those events. That's one of the reasons why I built a case. But I wanted to build a case to make sure that the public's protected from Annabelle. One of the reasons why we have the museum blessed once a month. Plus, the case, the way I built it, is infused with in the stain with holy water, holy oil. Within behind the felt is scribed in the wood the Lord's Prayer, the Saint Michael prayer. I have the three crosses that represent the Trinity. The two crosses on the side are carved out of the wood and just glass, so you can see inside the case. But the demonic cannot come through the cross, through Christ. The cross of Christ cannot go through that, so that helps binds and keeps Annabelle, the demonic spirit, within the case. You know, with that attachment is what I want to say. And hopefully, with that, that will keep, somebody from trying to mock the doll.
Mm-hmm.
So I just trying to take great precautions to, when we take the doll out of the museum, that everybody else is protected.
Do you make everybody sign any kind of waivers or anything when they're in the VIP room for the Paracon? Or
We had people sign waivers before they enter the museum. It's
Okay.
usually sent out with the email with their confirmations
Yep.
for the tickets.
Okay. And would you say that that's like the most dangerous object that you have in the museum?
One of the most dangerous objects in the museum.
Yeah.
You also have the shadow doll, which is, known to be dangerous. That doll was used from with a witch doctor would take a photograph of that doctor. I mean, the photograph of the shadow doll, and he will send it to his enemies. He will place a curse on that photo. So once they open up the letter, they open up, to take out the photo. The curse is placed upon them, and then they, will fall asleep at night, and they would either have a heart attack or, you know, the shadow doll will stop their heart.
Wow.
You have the satanic idol that was used in satanic rituals that was found in the woods of Sandy Hook, Connecticut. You have the dinosaur in the museum that was in the Brookfield murder case with Arnie Johnson, David Glasso, which David was possessed. And Arnie challenged the demonic, and weeks later, Arnie had committed this murder without realizing it.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
then this dinosaur was known to go around the house, moving around the floor, telling the whole family, "You're all gonna die." Which I built a case for that dinosaur as well.
Oh, you
Um,
did.
I did. Debbie Johnson, David's sister, um, gave me a set of rosaries so I could protect myself when I go on cases. And she asked me, Dan, can you build a case for that dinosaur? And she just wanted to make sure that, there was no damage done to the dinosaur. So what I did is Debbie had passed away unexpectedly, and I built a case. I let Arnie know that I built a case, and I took the rosaries that Debbie gave me, and I placed the rosaries around the dinosaur. So not just for my protection, she gave me those rosaries, but I used those same rosaries to protect everyone that comes and sees the dinosaur.
Wow.
Is this a toy dinosaur?
It's a toy dinosaur. It's one of those model dinosaurs that that came out in the 70s.
I have,
So it's a
yeah.
pretty good sized dinosaur.
It's funny you say dinosaur
Yeah.
because I have a toy dinosaur in 2015 after the ministry left. This thing went off by itself in the basement, and I thought I kicked it by accident. He's fun. And
Yeah.
it's actually on YouTube. We caught this thing. I mean, I'm still today afraid of it. I don't even go near this thing. But it was in a 15-minute session. We held the cell phones and asking questions, and it would make the dinosaur noise. Wouldn't actually, speak,
Yeah.
but
And it
to
was
whatever was doing that, manipulating this thing to go, it can't go off. Like
because
it's not motion
yeah,
activated.
you have to
It's
hit
not
the
light
tail.
activated, and it's never, ever, ever went off since 2015. But when it was pissed that ministry was at this house, it was ticked off.
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
the sense that it's like, I'm going to use this. I wonder why the dinosaur, right?
I don't know.
it's they use it as a conduit
Yeah.
for communications. I mean, like I said, the demonic does not like to be exposed. So when that ministry came in, it got offensive. It was being challenged, through the word of God. It was being challenged through the word of God. So it got offensive, and it doesn't like that,
Yeah.
and it takes a lot of faith and heart to expose that demon. And then once you expose it, you know, you have that ability to drive it away. Within you, you have that ability, not just me. I try to give that strength to my clients that they're able to do that. I
Yeah.
went on a case with Keith Johnson not too long ago, and this was a 15-year-old girl that he was telling me that she would come under possession. And the girl would say, she's from China. She would speak in different tongues. She
Wow.
would just name, her environment in China. She would name what river in China, stuff like that. I mean, this girl wouldn't even know um, anything about that, So, but she was a 15-year-old girl with a mind of a 5-year-old.
Wow.
And we were sitting at the dinner table, and things were fine. The family made us dinner. We're just having a good conversation. And then we looked at her, and she looked different. And we said, Jocelyn, is everything all right? And she looked up, and she, without blinking, she said, Jocelyn's not here. And then, we knew that we were dealing with, the devil itself. I mean, the demonic spirit that was in her. And so I had this rock that I had found the day before, and it appeared at my feet. I was at the beach, and it was shaped as a heart. And the heart, it had like a spear going through it, and it had some scratches on the heart. That was the sacred heart. Um, so I came home, and I get the call from Keith that he has this girl in Massachusetts that he would like me to go up there and help him with this case. And I told him about the heart that I just found. And I said, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the church, gonna attend mass. I'm gonna have the priest bless the heart, the stone, and Keith didn't know that I was gonna bring it with me. So I'm sitting at the table, and then when she came under possession, I took the stone and I put it on the table, and I told her to grab it. She wouldn't grab it. She was just staring at it, and then she started shaking. She got up and started wandering around the room like she wanted to get away. Her
Yeah.
stepfather came down from the upstairs bedroom, and she started going after him. So I grabbed the stepfather's hand and I gave him the stone. I told, here, hold on to it. And Jocelyn had already grabbed his arm. So he took her, and they both sat on the couch on the sofa. And all of a sudden, there was a change in Jocelyn. And I looked at her and I started talking to her, Jocelyn, can you hear me? And she started talking to me as Jocelyn. I said, Jocelyn, where is it? She pointed, it's behind my dad, it's behind him. So I
Oh.
started saying prayers, with the holy water and casting out the demon. Jocelyn saw me doing that, and she wanted holy water. So I put holy water on her hands. And as I'm saying the prayers, she's repeating she's saying the prayers with me. And I believe I gave her that strength to fight back. Um, I made her feel like a superhero. I got down to her level to explain to her. I gave her my rosaries that I had. I put those rosaries around her neck. I said, this is your strength. Just like Iron Man. That's on your heart. That's your light, like Iron Man. That's your power. So she felt empowered that, I have it now. I could fight this now. And she went around the whole house with me, with the holy water, saying the prayers, casting this demon out from every corner of the house. Till this day, she hasn't been afflicted by anything.
Wow.
I thought it wasn't that it was a scary situation. I thought it was a beautiful situation. It turned out to be, something great that just happened. So I like that gratification when I go in and I help a family. It's not what's inside the house; it's how I could change somebody's life.
Yeah.
And you make a difference, and then hopefully they could change somebody else's life.
Well, that's what it's all
Awesome.
about. And
Dan,
you're doing
thank
a
you so
great
much.
job.
That's an amazing story. Thank you for coming back on. Well,
This hour has flown by.
Is it already an hour?
Yes.
yeah, we're almost at the top of the hour now where we have to bring in the next guest, the next show. It goes quick. We definitely want to have you back because a lot of unanswered questions we still have. So we definitely want to do a second run on this. But can you tell people where they can find you and all that good stuff and a couple things you have going on?
Okay, you can find us at warrens.net. We have, like I said, the Paracon October 29th. You can also go to that website and purchase your tickets through there, or go to N.E.S.P.R at ticketbud.com and purchase your tickets to the Warren Seekers of the Supernatural Paracon. Phil and Julia, I would love to have you guys there.
Thank you.
I will comp you tickets. You'll be my guest there.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you. Oh, that's so nice of you.
And I love for you guys to share your story. I mean, I'll have you come up on stage and you can share your story about the case that we came down there to help you with.
And if you're ever interested, I won't touch it, but we do have that. I won't go near it, that dinosaur. So if you guys are ever interested in putting it in part of your artifacts, because it gives me the creeps, and ever since what happened, I will, but if you are ever interested, let us know on that.
Okay.
Thank you for that invitation.
No more dinosaurs in this house.
No.
That's Christmas presents. Nothing. I don't want to see another dinosaur.
Well, thank God our son's 12 and he doesn't like dinosaurs anymore because it was his toy.
Yeah, I took it over.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Dan.
you, Dan.
This has been
thanks for having
awesome.
me.
Thank you.
To the listener out there, please share this. There's a lot of knowledge that's covered in this show. We talk about demons, Amityville Horror, the Horsefly Chronicles home, Dan Rivera, N.E.S.P.R, all the stuff they have coming up, what he does, his first experiences, and knowledge is power. Everyone be the torch in someone else's darkness and help them move forward. All right, Julie, wrap it up.
Thank you, Dan. Special thank you to Carnation for fully sponsoring the show from day one. We love them. And please join us next Monday night on 105.3 FM from New Orleans. And stay tuned for Trish Mel with The Missing Piece.
Thank you, everyone. Have a safe, great night.
God bless.
Thank
you. You too. Good night.
All right, everybody, it is that time of year again. It's time for you to get out and nominate for your favorite podcast. The show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards is The Centralist in the category of politics and news. The Centralist is a much different news and political program which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings you just the facts from trusted sources, which will allow you to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Centralist in the category of politics and news. And that's podcastawards.com. Take a moment, go and vote, and as Joe would say, come on guys, vote, vote! It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. UFO Undercover, in the category of entertainment. This show brings you some of the most revealing and current research that is being done with respect to alien abductions and contact. Host Joe Montaldo has been an abduction researcher for over 35 years and is uniquely qualified to bring you live interviews with some of the most well-known researchers in ufology. So go to podcastawards.com and nominate UFO Undercover in the category of entertainment. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. The show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards is The Outer Realm, and that's in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. The Outer Realm is a popular show hosted by Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, which has millions of listeners each week. They are well known for their laid-back, roundtable style of interviewing. Together, this dynamic duo brings you the best of the best with guests from around the world who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, cryptozoology, folklore, and anything else that would be deemed outside the realm of normal. Michelle is an international public figure who has spent the last 2 decades working in the international paranormal community in research and media. Amelia is a remote viewing medium with 10 years of working with missing children, as well as cold and active murder cases. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Outer Realm in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. That's podcastawards.com. It's super easy. So just please take a moment and get out and go vote. Time to get out and vote. All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. The show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards is Chasing Prophecy in the category of Society and Culture. Take a ride down the rabbit hole with Jenny Nicasio, Sean Kelly, and Jason Iampietro, where each episode brings a roundtable approach to conversations about supernatural phenomena, hidden secret societies, underground bunkers, magical conspiracies, the paranormal, cryptic creatures, aliens, ghosts, legends, and myths from around the world. Chasing Prophecy radio program dives into topics that entice the imagination and seduce the mind, some of which are taboo. Chasing Prophecy, where they discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate Chasing Prophecy in the category of Society and Culture. That's podcastawards.com. Take a moment and get out and vote. Yes, it's that time of year again. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. So there's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. You've been hearing it for years now. It's the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. So this show is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard and provides advice and tips from contest judges, international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest winners, and industry professionals for writers and illustrators wanting to take their next step. So go to podcastawards.com and nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in all 3 categories. That was education, storyteller drama, and art. And that's podcastawards.com. So take a moment and get your votes in.